Wakefield. It's the Nolan Car Night Show starring Nolan. Inviting to join Nolan as guest this week, Will Pipicelli to the show. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Nolan. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the show. And I thank you all for joining us and so on and so forth. And I know there are a lot of you out there tuning into this, as I say, every week. But as I said early on, now that we're into the third season, big guests, important people, whether it be locally and so on and so forth. So I felt completing the trifecta of URI journalism legends. I had Stone Freeman on, had Taylor Cruz on. Now I have to have my next guest on, Will Pipicelli. I thank you, good sir, for taking the time out to do this.
I mean, legend, especially with those two. It's certainly some esteemed company, but I'm happy to be here, happy to join in on the fun, and can't wait, looking forward to it.
Well, I mean, I had to have those two on, and then I said, might as well have my old classmate on, who although different ends of the spectrum in terms of quality of work provided to the journalism field, but I said I have to have him on before it's too late. But as I always like to do, I like to ask, how are we doing on this wonderful?
We're doing good. About to move in back to URI in a few days, so that's always exciting. The boys play tonight. The U.S. men's national team. The road to the World Cup after the 2018 failure officially starts tonight, all the way in El Salvador. So I'll be staying up watching that game. But lots to look forward to, Nolan. Exciting. The school year is back. Yes. Rhody's back. Rhody Sports are back. Fans are back. It's a good time.
Yes, and hopefully a certain group of students at URI that will remain nameless, although we know who they are, won't fuck it up again this year, because I'm looking to watch URI Sports, especially basketball, and hopefully they can provide some substantial worthness of a season. For you, though, on another personal note, obviously the last 2 years, almost 2 years, have been a interesting time for all of us, whether one wants to believe in the science or not. But for you, how have you been able to deal with the last almost 2 years of time wasted?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely adaptable because, we're young people who are kind of like, this is the time of your life where you're supposed to do all the stuff you're not really allowed to do or you're supposed to do in 5, 10, 15 years time. So you kind of got to get it out all the way now. Yeah. But it certainly affected that ability to do so. Just being able to meet random people like in the street or just at like restaurants or at basketball games or on campus. Definitely harder to come by now. I think meeting new people is harder. Maintaining the relationships you already have is harder. But thankfully, I have a lot of good people around me who have been able to help me get through it. I've kind of got through it on my own, and specifically with the virus, about 5 or 6 months ago. So that was part of it. Unfortunately for many other people, but who knows when the light is at the end of the tunnel. We thought it was there, then it went dimmer. Now there's just everything else going on. It's just, we just gotta keep a smile on our face and just try to adapt to it as best we can at this point.
See, unfortunately, most people can't accept that, can't agree with that. And there are certain things that have transpired in the news that have continued this questioning of why do they follow that certain path they go down. But whatever, hopefully this fall doesn't get screwed up. And I hope that the football team don't lose on their season, although I'm not going to be surprised as it gets colder and darker fast. The variant is
winning record last year at a whopping 2-1. So the record books are going to have a winning record, though.
Yes, hopefully you can go 3-1 this year, or 2-2, whatever it may be, and not have to lose it because a few people need to survive social on the weekend with a little fire in their stomach. Obviously, known for your covering of the big sports teams at URI. I'm curious. I mean, although it's just a fall season with football and other ones, your prediction on how well the big three will do basketball on both men's and women's basketball this year.
Well, we'll start with football, I guess, because their home openers on Saturday.
Yeah.
Even though they had that little abbreviated 2-1 season, that is kind of tough to even call a season. I think for media and Coach Fleming and all of them would probably agree with the same. There's certainly optimism that comes with having a winning record and performing well in the games that you've played. CAA is always a tough conference. You got your James Madison's, your Villanovas. Starting with this weekend with, I believe it's Bryant at home. So hopefully a lot of fans will show out. The students won't be right there yet, so that could impact the crowd or whatnot. But I think Rhody football, we kind of want to see what they had a few years ago, where they had a little bit of a 500-ish record. Definitely an improvement off 2019 season, where they definitely disappointed given the expectations they had. But they got some votes in the stats preseason conference poll. So I think I'm looking forward to it. Just especially with just the energy around the program of just what I think all programs are actually having in terms of the excitement. The fact that it season possibly can't go any worse than what many programs experienced last year should be a good sign. We'll go with women's basketball before we get to the men. The women's basketball team, I think, has a chance to be one of the, if not the best team on campus this year. Surprised a lot of people last year.
Yeah.
I remember when Coach Reese first got hired, Nolan, Riley, and I, the former editor of Scar, we walked into Coach Reese's office to do the like a preseason preview of the team. We had never met her before. We didn't go to her introductory press conference. Nolan and I walked out of the office with like starstruck. I remember we went down the elevator. We just looked at each other and we're like, if I could play for her, I easily would. The culture shift was a complete 180.
Yes.
And then they surprised a lot of people in their first year with essentially 7-8 players, which were none of her own players. The players she brought in were ruled ineligible. Fast forward to last year, finished 4th in the conference. Coach of the year. She's got 1 or 2 players in the first team all-conference team. She's got the conference player of the year in Emmanuel Tahan. And they beat VCU. They shattered all these previous barriers for the team. Coach V said they wanted to win the conference and make the tournament, so they came up a bit short. But that being said, the foundation's there. They bring everybody back who contributed last year besides Johanna Muzet. But they got some good transfers coming in. And Maria Powell from the transfer from Syracuse, Maria Powell for Posey, I believe his name is, MFP, something like that. She's back, Marta Vargas is back, Tahan's back. A lot of excitement. Think they'll do well. As for the men, this I think this is an interesting year for Rhody men's basketball. Certainly, I think we're a bit, shall I say, maybe they got too far over the hill. Maybe at a certain point with Dan Hurley going back-to-back tournaments, winning the postseason tournament, winning the regular season tournament winning the regular season next year. Fats Russell's gone. He was the last piece to Hurley era. Yeah. So nobody is left. It's kind of Jeremy Shepard's team. It's Ishmael Leggett's team. Antoine Walker played well last year. The twins in the middle, the Mitchell twins. One was out injured all year, and the other one kind of started out poorly, but I think he actually finished the season really strongly. Shooting's not going to be a Rams specialty. It never has been since we've been on campus.
Yeah.
But it should be interesting. I think the fact that once again fans are back hopefully should create some sort of excitement. Maybe not have some of the uglier losses that we saw last year. But it's a big year. He's only got 2 years left on his contract. Coach Cox does. Schools are obviously struggling with the financial implications of the pandemic, so it didn't. And I don't think he should have gotten let go last season. But this year is definitely a big year. And I think that those conversations of whether to extend, maybe give him that last year in his contract, which doesn't really happen in NCAA athletics, or potentially let him go. Those conversations, which I don't think should happen right now, will definitely pick up as the season goes by, December, January, February time.
Now, which kind of leads into a question I was asking, it back to football as well as combined with basketball. Now, obviously, both Tom Ryan with the Ryan Center and other donors and football and so on and so forth, there have been a lot of money invested into both programs. And as we have both seen, as you just mentioned, both didn't have the best time last year, although football had a winning record, but a year prior to that, it wasn't the best. Is this year important for both teams in order to ensure that, Cox and Fleming both still have a job the following season?
Yes and no, because I think it's one of those things where we can't treat Rhody Sports like it's some of these other big-time college programs, right? We're at 14,500 student enrollment. in the tiniest state in the union, with facilities that you can definitely find better places to play facilities wise. But like you talked about the investment in athletics, brand new basketball practice facility coming in. Who knows when it's actually going to be started and completed, whatnot. But it is definitely, it's always a big year, you know. I think last year you kind of had an excuse, for lack of a better word, with the pandemic, and like it's always tough to evaluate just with all the challenges going on off the field that no coach or no person had any control over. So in terms of like a make or break year, I definitely think it's maybe a bigger one for Coach Cox than it would be for Coach Fleming. Coach Fleming has been here for the better part of a half decade at this point. Put some guys in the NFL, which the school hasn't seen since the 1980s. Hopefully, you know, with a new year, with a second year and a full year, with a new offensive coordinator, Kasim Hill back at quarterback, he can get a little more production, a little more wow factor. At that point, a lot of skill guys returning. So we'll see. You know, I think it will be a good year. But in terms of the expectation, I think they do have to be tempered. I don't think both of those men's basketball and football are going to be cutting down the nets this season.
I don't. I mean, I have to agree with you there. Now, as I was mentioning, I should have said it then, but you know, the women's team, you know, did very well last year. Kind of surprised, to be honest. I mean, there were years of struggle and embarrassment going. I know the one instance where I covered my freshman year many moons ago, when I covered a preseason game, and there was barely anybody in there. And now you see last year, obviously no fans, but now this year fans are back, and now it's going to be rock and roll, and people are caring more about the program. For you, how surprising was it to witness that immediate switch around? And then also, I mean, I would think you would have covered some of those games. How was it witnessing, you know, that environment change automatically?
I mean, I remember Coach Reese's one of her first games when in her first year, just the energy difference on the bench. You know, if when the people who weren't even playing, they were clapping. Coach Reese was animated, fired up. I remember she had a memorable line where like her gum barely had anything left to chew because she was so just passionate about that and taking it all on the piece of gum. But it's great to see, first of all. You know, it's great to see women's sports increasing in popularity, getting more people in the stands. I just want to correct myself from earlier. Maria Powell Poposi, that's her name. Great defensive player. But it's certainly exciting, you know. I don't think anybody knew the fact that they'd make that the year 2 jump as quickly as it did. Usually you kind of see that progression in year 3. But I talked to Coach Reese the last 2 years before the season, and just her optimism has always been abundantly clear. Last year was definitely bigger than the year before because she had a abbreviated preseason, but she got to play with her players more. The players who weren't in the system the first year on the court had a full year of development off the court, then got to be on the court wearing the uniform, which helped a lot. And now just looking at the roster, this is her team. You know, the only player left from the previous era is Marta Vargas, graduate student now at this point, and she was absolutely amazing last year, commanding the offense. She broke her foot in Coach Reese's first year, which kind of derailed plans that they had in store. It's definitely exciting to be a follower of the women's basketball program. It's always exciting to support women's sports and just see them flourish like they should be. And hopefully, as you said, with more optimism around the program, more buzz around the program, and like the Providence Journal, and Your View, and kind of other local media outlets, getting that buzz, getting that excitement up will hopefully lead to more fans in the stands, and potentially even some more historic records falling this year in Kingston.
Now I'm curious, odds of them making the NCAA tournament this upcoming season.
It's all dependent on the conference tournament. You know, their preseason schedule isn't that great still. It is hard to schedule women's basketball when you're not one of those big time programs. So it's all dependent on that postseason conference tournament. It's very, very, very doubtful you're going to get an at-large bid from the A10. And VCU is always a good program. You know, last year was the first time URI ever had beaten VCU in women's basketball since VCU came to the A10 about a decade ago. So it will be tough, but if it's any team and if it's any coach who I believe can do it, it's definitely Coach Rhys. She just got a contract extension as well, which door kind of popped on her desk. It didn't seem like she was using it as leverage or anything like that. She's got the backing of the program. She's got the backing of the hierarchy, and she definitely has the backing of the fan base. So we'll see what it goes. It's definitely exciting though.
Now, for me, I didn't see it. I mean, I would say it was news, but I feel as though it didn't get, that big of a coverage. David Cox lost one of his assistant coaches to Florida Gulf Coast. And then I don't know the guy who, is there now. Did you hear about that, or when did you find about it if you didn't? I'm curious on your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Coach Cox's top assistant. I'm just going to find the information right now because the name kind of escaped me. It's definitely, I will say, going back to one of your first questions, attachment last year covering URI Sports was definitely lacking. You were either at the soccer field, you were in the Ryan Center 2 or 3 times a week. And last year, you were lucky to even be at one of those places at all. And so just kind of being a student who we're not doing this full time, and we're kind of doing it to grow our professional selves, but also kind of do it for fun, because how often are you going to be able to sit courtside at a basketball game your entire life? So, that's one of those things that it's kind of tough to balance, always being on the opposite side of news, but also just kind of remembering it as well. So it looks like URI has added alumnus Todd Bozeman to the staff that Cox announced. He used to coach at Morgan State, and then Austin Carroll and TJ Cannon are back with the team. Austin Carroll has been there for a while, but I believe Coach Cox's Austin Carroll's father was the one who was stepped away from the team. Yeah,
but then and then Sutton left as well. I saw.
Yes,
he left.
That was the name that escaped me.
Yes.
Was definitely raved for his ability to speak with others. That I know from people who I've talked to around the program. He would certainly be a miss, and that was a guy who's been there for a while. He's been with who's Coach Cox's number 2. So who knows kind of what the story is there. I don't think it's fair to speculate. Well, again, it's one of those things that I think the impact will be seen as soon as they hit the court. It's tough to speculate, especially with 2.5 months before the season starts on early November. But it's likely to have an impact. Which way it will go?
Yeah,
it's to be determined.
Now, obviously, a compatriot of ours, but more I think of yours than my own. Stone Freeman, known for his prep and posting about it on social media and sharing it. For you, whether it's for the paper or when it was for the paper or for the radio or for both at the same time, regardless of what the story is, the level of prep, I'm sure for you, is definitely high and, pretty, important, but I'm curious on what that's like for yourself and the effort you put into making sure, you're doing the best job you can.
Yeah, no, prep is huge. Before an interview, whenever I sit down with an athlete, I have to go over kind of what their story's like, how their season's going, if they've had any big injuries, anything I can pull from that's kind of fun, from like their personal life, either off the court, off the field. I sat down with Nicole Petta, a swimmer, my freshman year, and we talked about her food blog. And so when I kind of pulled that information, she was so surprised by it. She's like, "Oh, you know about the page?" So just kind of examples like that. Games are a completely different story. You really have to sit down with the 2 laptops out and just grind. Learn about what happened in the last few games, learn about what's going on with the team overall, what's going on with the conference overall, what's going on with the other team. Last year, I didn't really get to cover any games for radio, unfortunately, just for my schedule and the way things worked out. So I wasn't as deep into the teams as I usually am. And then obviously I've been away all summer. So that's kind of why the knowledge isn't quite as there as I would like it to be, but that's okay. We'll be going back on the broadcast schedule probably around mid-September. So catch out way from me there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, prep is definitely a big part. You don't want to be the person that doesn't kind of sound like they know what they're talking about, making name pronunciation mistakes, citing the wrong facts, that type of deal. And I like the prep. You kind of feel like a nerd getting deep into the teams. And then when something arises, you're able to pull it out.
Yeah.
And you just feel smart, and that's always a fun feeling. So
now I've known this for a while, thanks to an associate that we both know, Zach Austin. But you are, the leader of the radio, or you were the big GM,
yes,
like Brian Cashman.
Yeah.
But for you, I mean, obviously, I don't know how, what it was like or what the stars were like, but it seems pretty fast. I mean, moving up pretty quickly up in the ladder. For you, was it just, the moment was just where it was, the stars were aligned, or was it just, you wanted to be in charge of something before you left?
It definitely was not the plan. I'd say that I always kind of had aspirations of following like a lot of mentors before me in the URI Sports specific chair. But then kind of as we had our executive board, I was the business manager for the station last year. So I was in charge of like paying bills, getting student stipends, managing the budget, that type of deal, all monetary stuff. And then, but our executive board had a lot of seniors on it, which was good for the experience. We didn't have a lot of underclassmen. I was the only junior on staff. It's one of those things where you kind of look around and you're like, I've had experience working alongside the general manager on the financial aspect of things. And then the opportunity was there, and I was like, well, I think I can do it. I think I'm qualified. I don't know. I'll have a good team around me that can support me wherever I'm lacking. And like kind of as you said, the stars kind of fell into place where now we're gonna be the GM for the station. I've been working on some things over the summer that will definitely be exciting, and happy to roll out when the time comes for that. So it'll be a great year. We got a good team. We got a lot of good mix of people. A lot of men and women who are going to do a lot of good things. So it's gonna be a fun year. People are back in studio. Sports department's back at sports games. So just that aspect alone will make it an exciting year.
Now I'm curious for you. This is a complete serious question. Would you rank yourself higher than GM LeBron James in terms of running the organization?
See, I don't know. LeBron did win a title pretty much running a team. Definitely in Cleveland. And I guess in Los Angeles too, with Anthony Davis and all those guys he signed. I definitely don't have the moxie, the physical physique, first of all. I think that's a striking difference between the two of us. But, LeBron's he's also 36, 37. He's got the experience on me as well. Like at age 20, could he have run a college radio station? I mean, he was playing in the NBA at age 20, so maybe he could have. But, I'll give it to LeBron. But if he wins another ring, but if it's a Mickey Mouse ring again, we'll see.
Mickey and A Disney, you gotta be careful. I have a feeling though, if I were to put you on stage, or you to be on stage, I think you would do a better job acting in a movie than the GM did in Space Jam 2, which is probably a subpar movie at best. Now, sports, covering him for for the paper, radio, then obviously GM, internships and jobs and all that stuff. How does one such as yourself manage that all in a week, day, or year? Because I can't do that.
It's definitely kind of prioritizing what things have to be done and knowing when they have to be done by.
Yes.
So last year, for example, I had class on Wednesdays. I had class at 9 a.m. on campus. One of the few classes I think that was actually running on campus at 9 o'clock in the morning. Then I had that, a business class. And then I was in the tour guide in the Welcome Center from about 10:30, 11, or all the way to like 5 o'clock. Kind of welcoming visitors into URI. Happy to show introducing people to the university, and then ushering people out on tours with tour guides. And then I'd spend Wednesday nights in the union editing stories for the Cigar. Whenever that got out, sometimes it was like 12:30, maybe beyond that. And then Thursday was the next day. I had to get up for my internship in Norwell, Massachusetts at 6:15, so I could drive an hour and 20 minutes to be there for 9. So just that kind of alone, it definitely takes a lot out of you. I definitely tried to get as much sleep as I could. As soon as 11:30 hit, I was like, I just need to go to bed so I can get some sleep. And then just kind of doing things as well to de-stress. Like I'd always go for runs on the beach when I could. I gained a big appreciation for the beach and the ocean waves. Finally, living off campus, the ocean did give that to me. So if I could take anything away from all the money I've spent at URI, it's that I appreciate the ocean waves now and the sunset.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. But just, I don't know, just managing your time, knowing, prioritizing things, making sure you don't cut out the people in your life that are there to give you a laugh and to support you is definitely a bigger thing too. Just figuring out a way to balance all of it. People do it different ways. People probably don't do it the way I do it, but it works for me. So I'm happy to share the lessons, and hopefully people can pick up on the pieces that they want to.
Well, God bless you, because I'm sure as hell can't do that, won't do that. I might as well just let it blow up like Scarface at the end where Tony Montana's against all those guys or something like that. I don't know. God bless you for doing that. Now, for you, the last thing I kind of want to talk about it. I think I did it last week when I had Bernstein on, but a segment I kind of put together quickly to end this. A one-word challenge. So I'm gonna name you people or things, and they're all revolving around URI to a degree.
I love this.
One word
already.
So URI athletics.
Excitement.
Stone Freeman.
Legend.
The Ryan Center.
Community.
Meade Stadium.
This is more than one word, but could use more seating.
David Cox.
X's and O's.
Tammy Reese.
I don't want to use excitement again. Boisterous.
Dan Hurley.
Missed.
A favorite of ours, John Pantalone.
Caring.
I saw him. I've seen him a lot this summer.
Where have you seen him?
His grandson goes to the summer camp I work at.
Okay.
So he's been picking up a lot recently. I actually saw him one time when he was chewing me out at a advisor meeting a few years ago. I saw his grandkids on the one. I saw him, and that's when I had big brain thinking.
There you go.
Mentioned him, and now we're the best of pals. I saw him last week, and his grandson Meansley has been to camp for a while, but a hothead is what his grandson is. And last week we were at a park in Wakefield, and his grandson didn't do something that was awful to a counselor, and just like classic John Pantalone to our former classmate Hunter and Dos Nombres, if you remember her, chewed him out like a motherfucker. Who was yelling at him. I don't mean to yell. He was like, "What are you doing? Are you kidding me?" And
see, when you're in his office, he's got a leverage. But when you're out in Wakefield, you're in charge. So
yes,
the scripts are completely flipped.
He's very calm, and he comes in with his hat on, and it's always like not a floral Hawaiian type shirt, but it's a very thin shirt like that. He's very calm and peaceful, but he's you don't want to mess with him, but he's a wonderful guy. URI.
Home.
Well, I can't agree more. Although I live not far from here, but not my most favorite place. But it is what it is. But I say thank you, Will. That is our time for this week's edition. I thank you so much for being a participant and helping me out and being as enthusiastic as you have been. It's been great fun, and I hopefully we can do this again when more stuff is rocking and rolling.
Yeah, I know. We only covered a little small snapshot of all the things that are about to happen, but when they do happen or as they're happening, I'm definitely looking forward to reconnecting, seeing where we went right, where we went wrong.
Yes. Well, not as much as me as the host, more of yourself.
This is true, but you could have guided me onto the wrong path.
Yes, I could have.
And you gave me the platform to express myself, so maybe
you'll
have to take a little bit of blame.
Yes, the massive platform, because when basketball comes, this is going to blow up, as I always say. Well, for those out there listening and viewing, if you enjoyed what you did, because I know everyone out there, millions of people, the Joe Rogan size audience enjoys this and likes it, but do us a favor. Do well a favor. He's begging you. He told me after this that they better do well. Subscribe the fuck out of this show. Like, share, turn bell notification on, and like and follow on Spotify, because what that does and tells us is that you want to invest, as Tom Ryan did to the Ryan Center, and I appreciate and thank you. Will, do you want to plug anything, social media or any big things coming up that you'll be involved with?
WRIU, we're always looking for new members. We got sports, we got music, we got talk shows. Anything you want to talk about, any music you want to play, we're all open ears. We accept everybody. So if you want to come meet a group of people, express yourselves to the general public, WRIU 90.3 FM Kingston. Check us out, listen to us. After you're done listening to Nolan, turn on the radio or the TuneIn app and hop on to WRIU.
Yeah, do it. And then if you're already doing that now, well, that wouldn't make sense. But please help me, because sooner or later, down the road, when this becomes big time, you're like, holy shit, this fucking episode with Will Pipicelli. I mean, this was great. But follow on Instagram, Twitter, the podcast, that helps it as well. But in the words of Johnny Carson, I bid you all a heartfelt good night.